Well, I'm delighted to be joined by, would you believe, an ex-schoolmate and a very good friend, David McKinley. One of his many names, but that's... and we're here to talk about careers. And I don't think I've met many people in my life that have had such an interesting career, from going to school together. And I've got a boring life, corporate world, working in recruitment. I do love it. But I wanted David to tell his story. It's not just one job. He's got a few going on here.
I've got one or two, Shan. How you doing? Thanks for having me on, man.
Good. Well, listen, thanks for coming on. David, we've known each other since we were in high school together, right?
Yep, which is I've just worked that out. That's about 31, 32 years, I think.
32 years ago. Mental. And you've got hair and I don't. And you look far more stylish than I do.
To be honest, I barely get hair. I'm having to do this comb forward thing. Try and retain what dignity I have. I've no dignity, have I?
I think we both gave up dignity in high school, didn't they? It was quite
aye. That's conversation for another time that maybe hasn't been recorded though.
100%. Well, it's not often that you can actually say that I can say that I'm on doing this recording with somebody that I was in a film with as well, right? Because we also went to school with somebody who was famous.
That's right. Well, we went to many people. Well, I think there was a few people at school, but obviously my old school came out last year. They were both in. It was directed by another former pupil. That was John O'Macleod. About the Brandon Lee story, which was you want me to, but I just give the synopsis.
No, go for it. Why not? Yeah.
So, what would have been the start of our 5th year at school? Second last year of school, a new pupil arrived. Brandon Lee came from Canada. He looked substantially older than the rest of us. Well, maybe not myself, but he looked older.
I bought in there because you at school did have a full beard when you were in 5th year.
I did. That was everybody's best friend because I would go to the off sales and get everybody's silver Meriden cider, 2 cans of McCoon's lager.
Perfect. You should remember my order. Well done.
Yes, this new guy came, and obviously as the story kind of unravels, all was not what it seems. You know, he wasn't orphaned after a car crash in Canada, and he wasn't living with his gran in Bearsden. So the film is basically a documentary film starring Alan Cumming and a couple of more handsome and talented Scottish people like ourselves.
Absolutely. Don't get more handsome and Scottish than us, do you?
I know, mate. I know. It's still available on the iPlayer, as far as I know.
It is.
So it's my old school. Quite easy to remember.
There you go. Our old school. Film called My Old School. Well, so we were at my old school, our old school, and we grew up together. And I went to uni, ended up working, all the rest of it. But you live a very different life, and you're doing so many different things. So tell me a bit of your story then.
So after I left, well, obviously when you left school, I went to university. I was there for 3 months and decided it was too much hard work. So I applied that I left. I went to work part-time in a pub. And from there, between the ages of 18 to 21, I worked in a series of pubs in the West End and in the city centre. I get my first pub manager's job just before my 22nd birthday. And that was for kind of, sorry, that's my dog. So yeah, I was 22. I was managing a pub, and then I went on to manage a series of pubs and restaurants. I was area manager for a company in Glasgow, so I was responsible for a nightclub, a live music venue, a restaurant, 2 bars.
That's a big job, right? That's a big job.
Yep. Really big job. And I'll be honest, I kind of blagged my way into it, as I've done most things. So, but it was fine. I had managers at the units underneath me working for me. But because of who I was as a person, I kind of felt they couldn't do as good a job as I was. So I ended up working like 80, 90-hour weeks on a salary, which was obviously no use to anybody. And at that time, I think my eldest daughter, she'd just been born. So I wasn't getting to spend time with her or her mum, and I knew something had to change. So after working the pub game for, well, I suppose from 18 to 22 for 4 years, I got a phone call one day asking if I knew anybody that wanted to start a tattoo apprenticeship. because I was quite artistic at school.
I remember that. And you loved tattoos at school as well, didn't you? So there you go, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I kind of said, like, I'll do it. I know I've got a lot of tattoos. It's something I've tried to get into in the past. And back then, when I was 18, 19, trying to get into tattooing, there was 2 studios in Glasgow. There's Johnny's and Terry's, excuse me. And they were just grumpy old men. You know, you would go in, you would spend your money, you would try and instigate a conversation about how you learn to tattoo, and you'd basically get told to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
So the door was shut then. Back then, you know, mid to late 90s, there was no internet, there was no magazines, there was nothing to tell you how to become a tattoo artist. So I gave up on it. So was it 2001? I get this phone call. I said I would like to do the apprenticeship, and the guy basically said, it's not for you. It's basically unpaid. It's in Perth, and you've got a family. We can't expect you to travel all the way through. So next day I appeared at the shop, and he's like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here for the apprenticeship. So he made me go and scrub all the needles, do all the cleaning stuff. He says, go and scrub the toilet, thinking I wouldn't do it. Went and scrubbed the toilet. He says, right, if you come back tomorrow, you've got to tattoo yourself. So I was actually there, sitting on the doorstep for them arriving the next morning.
Tattoo yourself?
Tattooed myself, like no idea what I was doing. They taught me through the basics. Tattooed myself, and then they were like, right, you're in. So that was 2001.
Here's a job interview and a half. Tattoo yourself, you get the job.
Better believe it. So I actually ended up running that shop in Perth. So I had to travel up and down the road 5 days a week, up and down the road to Perth. I knew at some point I would have my own shop in Glasgow. So that was the light at the end of the tunnel. Getting I don't know how people can commute to work every day of their lives. You know, it's kind of bad enough I've got to get a 10-minute school run done before I go into work in the morning. So hats off to the people that have to sit in AMA or get train journeys. But that's not for me. So 2005. So I started tattooing 2001, 2005. I opened my own shop in Maryhill Road in Glasgow, and we've been there for just over 18 years now.
Yeah.
So the business has grown that time. So it was just me when we started. We've now got 4 artists and a shop manager as well, and it's really taken off. You know, it's kind of through all the financial stuff that's been going on in 2008. You know, the recession that's probably looming now as well. We're still busy, and we've been kind of really lucky that, you know, I've had the guys coming in, the artists coming in at the right time. And you know, I've worked hard to get where I am in tattooing, but I've also had a lot of luck as well, and I've done things at the right time just by chance. But I've got the best job in the world. I sit in Mars all day, I draw, I listen to music, I get to speak to lots of different people from lots of varied backgrounds, and it's absolutely fantastic. You know, kind of every day I go into my work and I'm excited and I'm looking forward to what's ahead.
So that doesn't feel like a job, right? Because that's what I always tell people.
Yep. Aye.
If you enjoy it, you love it. You get paid to do something you love, and that's what you've done. So you've had the high. I mean, a big job in hospitality, big job. Jacked it. Started from the bottom as a man, right? Yep. Worked into your own business, which is a successful business in Glasgow, really well known, well renowned. And Tattoo Dave is your name, right? Also your stage name, because we're getting to the point I'm really excited about. This is something that's just, I'm loving it, right? Tattoo Dave, stage name, well-known guy now, because you're a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I've been doing stand-up comedy for just over a year now. It was May last year. It still sounds a wee bit weird to describe myself or hear me described as a comedian, but that's what I've been doing. So I did my first gig at the Stand Comedy Club in Glasgow. They do every Tuesday night. It's called Red Raw. It's a new act, new material night. So it's established comedians that go along trying new material, or less experienced comedians just trying to get in the door. So I didn't know that's not the way to do it. If you want to get into stand-up comedy, you should go to open mic nights. You know, you should go and see comedy nights and just speak to people and they'll give you advice. I as with everything else in my life, I kind of blagged my way into it, turned up the stand, and kind of actually did all right for my first 5 minutes. I did okay. But from being backstage at the stand, speaking to other comedians of different levels, and they were saying, this is weird that you're doing your first 5 minutes here. It's not unheard of, but it's not the way to do it. So they gave me pointers. They told me other nights that I should be going to, like low-key nights, just in like the back room of a pub. And from there, you know, I had the kind of peak of performing for over 150 people for my first time, and then my next gig, I'm in a pub back room performing to 6 comedians and the bar staff because nobody turned up. But so I think that's May last year to August now. I've done 150, 160 gigs since then.
So you've not skirted about like you've done, like you did with the tattooing, obviously with your career and all that. You see, you blag your way in, right? But then you throw yourself in.
100%.
There's looking back.
I think I've got quite an obsessive personality. So if I'm going to do something, I throw myself in. And sometimes it's to my detriment. I have to acknowledge sometimes that's to my family's detriment as well. And that I get hyper focused and things. But you know, if you're going to do it, you kind of got to do it full steam. And that's what I've done with this. So you know, last year.
Sorry, David.
No.
You're all in basically, right? So you're all in.
Yeah.
So you say 150 odd gigs, right?
Yep.
In a very short space of time for somebody that hadn't done it before.
Yep.
You've obviously got the drive, but you're obviously making people laugh because it's we're following what's going on now, and you're part of a group, aren't you? That's now at the Fringe.
Yes. So last year at Edinburgh's Fringe, myself and 2 friends were driving back to Glasgow on the first day, and we're discussing a friend of ours who had half the audience walk out her gig like during her set. And my friend Jack in the back of the car, he's saying like we should be able to lock the door on these people until we're finished because it's a free show. And I said that would be the ultimate captive audience. At that moment, without the word of a lie, Johnny Cash's famous prison song San Quentin starts playing in the car stereo, and my mate Paddy says that's your ultimate captive audience. So we all had a laugh about you know, it would be amazing to do 1 gig in 1 prison just to say we've done it. So I couldn't shake the idea in my head. I was like, why can't we do this? Like at the time, you know, we were fairly low down the pecking order of stand-up comedians, but we were like open spots. So like open spot is just somebody will go in and do 5 or 10 minutes before the big comedian, or you know, before even the warm-up act goes on. So I tattooed a couple of people, still do, that work for the Scottish Prison Service. So I says, could you get me contact details of whoever I would speak to? So I get 3 emails back, and I noticed that the home address of the email, it was like at scottishprison.co.uk, and it was just the person's name. So I basically got a list of all the governors, deputy governors, and their assistants in the Scottish Prison Service across 15 prisons. So that's 3. So that's 45 different names, and I basically guessed what their email address would be. So it'd be like tattoo.dave, tattoo_Dave, Dave.tattoo, right? So I sent out about 300 emails. The majority bounced back, but some of these emails get through, and from that I get meetings arranged to go and speak to these people at, I think, 3 prisons across Scotland. They were very keen to get us in. So basically we've called it Wholesome Prison Blues.
Wholesome Prison Blues, right?
Wholesome Prison Blues, which is a take on Johnny Cash's Wholesome Prison Blues. There's 6 of us go in and we do stand-up comedy gigs for the prisoners inside prisons. So it started out wanting to do 1 gig, and it's kind of snowballed. So we've done 20, including the Fringe, we've done 34 Wholesome Prison Blues gigs so far in prisons across Scotland. After we did the first one at Lomos in November last year, that was a Thursday afternoon. The Friday morning, my email inbox was full from every other prison we tried to contact.
Was that right? So the word got around?
Yeah, they had either ignored me or they hadn't get the email. But I know they'd get the emails, because there's no way they couldn't have. And my inbox was full saying, "We've heard about the brilliant shows you're putting on. Can you come to our prison, please?" So we've got 2 more prisons in Scotland that we've not played yet, Grampian and Dumfries. So we're just actually trying to sort dates out with them now. Which it's hard enough sorting my own schedule to go and do a comedy gig. I've got to try and schedule 5 other comedians' diaries as well, do these gigs, which is really stressful.
So you're organising these gigs, you're doing stand-up in prisons, you're doing stand-up in venues across Scotland, and you're at the Fringe as well, aren't you now? So we can't miss it, the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah. So fortunately, an agent, a showbiz agent, found out about the prison gigs we were doing, and she helped facilitate a full run at the Edinburgh Fringe for our Wholesome Prison Blues shows for the public. So again, we're higher up in the pecking order than we were last year. But for us to have a full run at the Fringe with just the Tonic comedy business, just a comedy club, is unheard of. So we've ruffled a lot of feathers with doing these public gigs now. You know, we were ruffling feathers before just doing gigs in prisons, because a lot of people are of the opinion prisoners shouldn't have entertainment, they shouldn't have anything when they're in there, which I'd like to talk about if we can come back to that. And now there's other comedians that are saying, why are these guys getting to do this? Why are they getting this opportunity? And it's basically because we've been out and we've grafted for it. We've kind of worked hard. We've put ourselves out there. We certainly didn't know what we were going into when we did this, and it's just snowballed into this absolute machine now.
But what you're saying is, like, you know, is when you hear of somebody in their career story, right? You've had a very different career story, but there's a drive in them, right? Just you as a person, there's been a drive in you. I've known you for years, right? But there's a drive in you that I can't explain, but it's got you to have 3 really key parts to your life, your career. Once you're still a family man, but also this kind of uniqueness of what you're doing, and you've drove and pushed it. So it's, you know, you've got, like, joking aside, you've got a captive audience in a prison, right?
Yeah.
I take it so that there is people that are probably saying, well, what, you know, they've committed crimes. Why are you going in and making them laugh? What's the story here? Why are you doing it?
Yeah. So why are we doing it? So one of the things that I've learned, probably from my first time in a prison, and I'm actually embarrassed to admit this, and I don't know why, because I think the majority of people in the public have the opinion I had, that prison is just about punishment. You should go in and you should sit in your cell for 23 hours a day and think about what you've done. And when actual fact, and this is a message that we're trying to get across with doing these Fringe shows, is that going to prison is your punishment, but your time in prison is about rehabilitation. It's about getting help for any drugs or alcohol addictions that you may have. It's about training and education and making sure that when you leave prison, you're in a stronger position and you're a better person than when you went in, so that you can reintegrate with society and you're not going to fall back on whatever's led you to be in prison in the first place. And we've had a lot of kickback from the public, just people saying, like, prisoners shouldn't get this. Why should prisoners get comedy shows when there's children starving in the country? And, like, we don't get paid for doing these shows. We're doing this off our own backs. We're financing it ourselves. So, you know, these arguments that, you know, the money's been spent on prisoners, nobody's spending money on these comedy shows yet. But it's that's the message we want to get across, is, you know, you can't lock people away and not help them, because they're just going to come back and return to the only lives that they know.
So giving a bit of laughter, going into the prisons, giving them some enjoyment, some fun, is actually part of the rehabilitation, right? And that's something that nobody else has ever thought of.
100%. I think it's a very, very small part of that rehabilitation. But for a lot of these guys, they've never been to a comedy club before. You know, they've never been treated like people, and that's a shame. I mean, you and I have had very good lives. I think we've had fortunate lives. I've never been in a position where I've had to make a choice where, if I do this thing, I'm going to I could end up in prison. The statistics, like, I think it's just under half of all male prisoners are in because of crimes that they've committed due to a drugs or alcohol addiction. And if you look at people that have drugs or alcohol possession, like it's almost like 90% have that addiction because of some sort of childhood trauma. And if you look at female prisoners, those numbers, they're twice as much. And you know, I've never had anything as bad. I've had it happen to me, but I've never had anything as bad that's made me make a decision where I need to go and take heroin to make my life better, or I'm going to end this bottle and forget things have happened to me. So I think people are too quick to judge. You know, if somebody's in jail, they've done something wrong. Well, they have done something wrong, but why have they done something wrong? It's not because they've just made a choice. Like, I'm too lazy to work, so I'm going to steal a television or X, Y, or Z. You know, there's a chain of events. You know, there's like at least six or seven events that lead somebody to go into prison. You know, it's not just a click of the fingers. And maybe that's the press or the media or films or television that give us that perception that, you know, it's just black and white. You know, you're good or you're bad.
But there's something driving you again. It's coming out this, you know, your passion, right, for whatever you do. You throw yourself in and you just don't stop. You don't stop. You don't stop. So you're doing good, right, and you're changing people's lives, right. They're doing a bit. You would say it's a little bit. It might be a big bit. It might just somebody takes on something. So, and to be the first to do it as well is really, really important for you. You know, like nobody else has done it.
So it's not quite strictly true. There are stand-up comedians that have done gigs in prisons, but it's been like a one-off here, it's a one-off there.
You're continually on a series. Doing this, right?
Like Gary Little, he's a brilliant Glaswegian comedian. He's in his 60s now.
He's been in prison, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, he's been in prison as well. So, you know, I know he does regular shows at Barlinnie. Which is phenomenal. It's a great venue. He's obviously got a very personal connection to the guys in there, and they love that. But we were the first to kind of treat it as a tour and go, well, why can't we do every prison, and why can't we do this? And one of the things we're going to do after the Fringe is we're going to do stand-up comedy workshops for the prisoners as well in different prisons. We'll basically go in, we'll spend 2 days a week, maybe 3 or 4 hours every day with a small group, and we'll teach them how to write jokes, how to perform jokes, and we'll do that for 3 or 4 weeks, and then at the end of that time they'll get to put on a small show for their peers or their friends and family. But what that's teaching them, it's not just teaching them how to tell jokes, it's teaching them creative writing. It's about how to speak publicly. It's about how to project yourself. It's about confidence, about overcoming nerves as well. And that's hopefully for me, that'll be the legacy of Wholesome Prison Blues, is that, you know, we can help people that they're maybe not seeing it as, I need to go and do this course now to get out my cell, or, you know, I'm going to go and learn how to do this. It's something fun for them to do. And if I'm honest, a lot of these guys are funnier than we are in there. So if anyone writes brilliant jokes, we're just going to steal. We're going to steal the material because they can do in with it for a wee while.
What a great idea! Steal the material. We're not getting out. Well, you've been a really, but it was no different from when we were growing up. You've still got that same passion. There's somebody that still had that drive and enthusiasm for life, no matter what they did when we were 16. That you do now, that we're the age we are. And I'm not going to quote the age we are, right? So. I'll keep that secret. Tell everybody. So you're Wholesome Prison Blues, and you're playing at the Fringe currently in Edinburgh. So where are you? Just the ticket, did you say?
So we are with Just the Tonic at the Grassmarket Community Project, which is at the top of the Grassmarket. We're there every day of the Fringe, apart from Wednesdays. So our last day is Sunday the 27th. You can go on the Just the Tonic or Edinburgh Fringe websites to buy tickets. You can buy tickets ahead, or it's a pay what you can system. So basically you can turn up, you can get in for free, and if you enjoy the show you can tip us at the end. If you've not enjoyed it, you can make a bolt for freedom. However, the tickets are starting to shift now, so you know it's better to buy your ticket and guarantee that you're going to get into the show. It's myself and 5 other really, and I'm not just saying this, it's 5 of the best comedians that Scotland has at the moment. It's Mikey Motion, who's as well as being a comedian, he's a DJ. He's done a lot of viral stuff. He's been Bergie Boy, he's been the Sausage King. We've got Jack Traynor, who's about to turn pro. He's just signed a contract for a TV show. We've got Paddy Linton, we've got Amanda Hussey, and we've got Eddie McKenzie as well. All these people are doing separate shows during the Fringe, outside the Wholesome Prison Blues, as I am as well. So we've got a busy month, and we just really want to get that room filled, because it's great. And as I say, we want to spread this message about prison being about rehabilitation rather than punishment.
What a message. What
Yes.
a chat.
Aye.
Tattoo Dave, thank you very much
Thanks
for
very
talking
much.
about your. Thanks for your career story. We'll put the link on for Just a Tonic for
That'd be
people to
great.
follow up on that. Been delightful talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, man. I hope to see you soon. Cheers.